Welcome to the LumiCast, your premier gateway to the universe of limitless photo editing. Dive into the galaxy of Luminar software and the dynamic world of AI photo editing. Join us weekly for a burst of creativity and the drive to transform your photos with confidence and skill. Broadcasting directly from Clever Photographer headquarters, it's time to welcome your hosts, Jakub and Holly Linton.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of LumiCast, the podcast where we talk about photography, photo editing, and our love of Luminar Neo. I'm Holly Linton, your host from Tennessee, and next to me virtually is Jakub, founder of Clever Photographer. How's it going today, Jakub?
Hello, Holly. I'm great. I eaten all the turkey, all the trimmings, and I feel like it's time to leave the fireplace and maybe go out for a while.
All right. Well, I have an event for you to get out there and shoot. We're coming up on New Year's Eve, and you know what that means in many parts of the world would be some fireworks. So today's topic, we're going to discuss 10 different tips for first-timers shooting fireworks. And it just so happens I would be a first-timer. So I will be just telling you guys what these tips are, and then Jakub will elaborate on the actual technique.
Great. That sounds like a great idea.
All right.
Yep. Let's start with it.
So let's jump right in. So the first tip for shooting fireworks would be bring a tripod for steady, long exposures. And you know how I just love a tripod.
Yes. Well, some photography activities you can do without. Fireworks is definitely one where you will need the tripod. Especially if you're just starting, it's really good to set up yourself early. And we'll talk a little bit later about the need of maybe coming earlier and get the right composition and everything. So that comes together with the tripod. Once you find your framing, you set the camera there and it's just set. You don't have to worry about moving stuff and maybe getting confused in the dark. So that's why the tripod is good. And of course, it's really important for the longer exposure. Again, something we're going to talk about in a moment. Generally, you shoot fireworks with that kind of 1, 2, 4, 5 second exposure, and it's impossible to hold that in a hand, like breathing and movement and everything is just impossible. So definitely tripod is a key ingredient for successful fireworks photo shoot. A, because of the long exposure to make sure your photos are sharp, and B, because it will hold the framing you have set early and everything will set you on the right path with that.
Also, if you are hand holding, the crowd surrounding you might bump into you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And in the winter, it will be cold, so you may shake as well. And you may be using gloves, so it's kind of difficult to hold the camera. So definitely, tripod is a key ingredient there.
Okay, great first tip. On to the second one. Switch to manual focus and set it toward infinity.
So this is a really important tip, but it's not exact infinity. Actually, there is a little trick there. So how it works, even with the latest cameras, they struggle in that low light. They struggle to find where to focus. The fireworks are moving. Some of the structures, if you have them, are maybe a little too dark. So ideally, you would set up your camera, so you're in the location with the tripod, and then you basically switch it to manual, and you go all the way to infinity. And once you get there, generally, it's just a little bit back where is the sweet point. I know it's difficult to explain it, and not all the cameras have an infinity point on them, so you really have to play around with it. But how it works is to go to infinity and then turn it a little bit back, take a picture or two, double check the sharpness, and then you're going to be set. Again, if you want to make it a little bit easier for you, something I will be repeating over and over. If you want to come a little bit earlier, make sure that everything is set when there is maybe still a little bit of light. Make sure that you sharp and focus, switch it to manual, and then just leave it the way it is. So that can make it a little bit easier. But definitely manual focus for the fireworks with the infinity and little back is the way to go.
Okay. Is that also, so you're talking about manually focusing with your lens versus putting it in manual mode on the camera?
Ultimately, when I switch it to manual focusing on the camera, it's just not going to try to focus, right? It will just keep it on whatever the lens is set to. And then you have this focusing ring on your lens, and that's where you adjust where you're focusing. So on some cameras, when you turn that, when the camera is set to manual, when you turn it, it actually shows you like 3 meters, 5 meters, 10 meters, and then infinity. So if you turn it long enough, it will go to infinity. But for some reason, the infinity just doesn't always work on a fireworks. It needs to be turn to infinity, if you know what I mean, and then turn it just slightly back, just a little bit. And that's where the sweet point is.
So not like Buzz Lightyear to infinity and beyond. It's really to infinity and a tiny bit back.
Exactly.
Okay.
Again, take a few shots, double check, at the back screen and see the sharpness and just play around with it a little bit. It really is not that complicated. I don't want to make it sound like hard, but you just need to double check.
Okay. Well, speaking of lighting then, the next tip is using a low ISO, maybe 100 to 200 for clean, noise-free shots and colorful shots.
Yes, definitely. That's a big one. Lots of people forget. They maybe keep their ISO on auto or they go really high. And there is no need for the fireworks because they work a little bit like a moon. With the moon photography, the moon is really strong source of light. So you can go quite low on your ISO, sometimes even handheld it, but on a tripod, take a picture of the moon and it will be sharp. And with the fireworks, it's same. They are so bright that you can go really low, around 100, 200, or a little bit higher if you want to. And by doing that, you will get nice, clean, colorful shots. Another reason why going really low is that lots of cameras really struggle in a low light with the noise in the darker areas. So if the camera is already struggling and on the top of it, you're adding lots of ISO, some of the results could be really bad. So 100 to 200 is generally a good choice. And again, with the idea that your camera is sitting on a tripod, that shouldn't be difficult at all.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's a good tip because I think sometimes common sense would say, oh, it's dark out. I guess I better put my ISO up. But because you're on a tripod, it allows you to keep your ISO really low. So that's good. Okay. Our fourth tip for shooting fireworks is starting with a small or narrow aperture.
Good. So yes, f7.1 to f11, f8 to f11. Yeah, either of them works really well. Now, the reason is that what you don't realize when you're looking at the photos of fireworks is that actually they are not all in the same distance from you. So imagine you're looking at the fireworks and they are all exploding in the sky. The thing is, some of them are maybe 100 meters away from you, some of them 150, some of them 200. So there is quite big difference between the distance of the camera and then the different fireworks. And when you go lower, like f4 or even lower, that can start to blur them, as well as the overall kind of feeling or the touch of the camera can really start to blur different details. So with the f8 to f11, you can really get nice open lens. You get a great performance because most of the lenses perform really well in this area around that f7.1, f11. And also it will not matter on the distance. It will just make sure that everything is sharp all the way through.
That's a good tip because I'm someone who usually shoots at a wider aperture like with my flowers and stuff. So if I went to a new subject matter like this, that's something I would have to really think about and be like, oh, wait a minute. I really need to shoot with a smaller aperture here because of the subject matter. So that makes sense. You want to get all the fireworks in focus.
Definitely.
Okay, on to number 5.
Cool.
Use shutter speeds between 1 to 4 seconds. So that's some pretty slow shutter speeds there.
Yeah, definitely. Now, how slow you want to be depends a little bit on the type of the fireworks you're photographing and also the exact effect you're looking for. So, there are different types, right? Some of them kind of go in a line, color line up, and then there is the explosion. Some of them are a little bit like just a falling waterfall, like lots of different sparks. Other ones actually make no line. They just go up to the sky. You can't see it. And then they explode. All of them take a little bit different time on how long it takes to capture them. So some of them are a little bit faster. So that's where you go around the 1 to 2 seconds. Some of them are a little bit longer. That's where you go for that 4 or 5 seconds. So when you're just capturing the explosion in the sky, no line towards it or anything, the 1 to 2 second is all right. If you want the full line of the firework plus the exposure, you would plus the explosion, you would go for that 4 or 5 seconds, which, yeah, you just need to play around with it. It kind of is a little bit of try and testing, but eventually you will get a hold of it.
So are you actually, though, tracking? You're not tracking the firework, like the one that's shooting way up in the sky. You said you're just setting up your camera and tripod with the assumption that you'll get a majority of the fireworks into the frame, but you're not concerning yourself with, oh my God, this next firework might be different than the previous firework, and you're not going nutso with, loosening your ball head or whatever and moving it around.
No. Again, we're talking about first-timers tips, right? It's for people who maybe never photographed fireworks or really struggled. So yes, they are professionals. There are some professionals which are able to photograph fireworks handheld. Actually, they have a technique, high ISO and the shutter speed and so on. But for our first-timers or people who just starting, these are the main building stones. And in fact, we just kind of cover the full basic settings, right? Camera is on a tripod, ISO on 100 to 200, f8 to f11, and 1 to 4 seconds. So if you go with that, you're already on a good start, especially if you already chosen your framing. After that, honestly, it's just a little bit of luck. You just keep pressing the shutter speed and you keep capturing photos. And generally what happens is, if I go to fireworks, I end up with maybe 200 or 300 pictures, and maybe 10 of them are great. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I need to even blend them together. Maybe because this part of the sky looked really good on this picture, and maybe on this part, on this image, I have another part of the sky looking good. So I then have to kind of blend them together. And if you're using the tripod and framing always the same frame, then it's really easy to blend them together because you just put them on the top of each other. And then you mask one part of the sky from one photo and the other part of the sky with the other photo.
Okay. Great.
Cool.
All right. Well, that and those are our first 5 tips. So don't blow up or explode. We'll be right back after our commercial break.
If you're listening to the LumiCast podcast, then we share something in common. We love editing photos, and we love Luminar. It's almost breathtaking what this amazing tech can do for you. On our website, you'll find countless different things to help you be more creative than you ever thought imaginable. From our photo manipulation masterclass to our power bundle with 986 elements, our essential preset bundle, editing software and extensions to our tutorials. Harness the power at the website at www.cleverphotographer.com/Luminar. Again, that's cleverphotographer.com/Luminar. Now, back to LumiCast.
And we're back with some more fireworks tips for first-timers. So our 6th tip today will be choose your foreground before the show begins, which Jakub kind of touched on already, getting your setup right before the show starts.
Yes. I mean, this is probably one of the most important tips from this whole episode. It really is helpful if you can get to the location early, not necessarily during the day. You don't want to be standing there for hours, but if you can get there just at the beginning of blue hour, and set up yourself and make sure that you have the right framing, it will just make your life so much easier. Now, of course, that it is ideal if you know exactly where the firework is going to be exploding and how it's going to look, which is maybe the case in your local town, village, city, because they generally look same every year. Well, not exactly the same, but maybe the direction is same. If you're going somewhere where you don't know, well, you just have to go with it and see what's going to work. But honestly, out of all these tips, this is a one which can make your life so much easier. On top of the fact that if you come early, you will get the best viewpoint. You can imagine that once people start to come in families and groups, and it will be really difficult to get the good spots. If you do want to make your life the easiest when it comes to fireworks and you want to choose great location, the one I really like to photograph is when in front of the fireworks is a lake or river or a space which is not accessible by people, because ultimately that allows you to go up to some kind of barrier, which could be, lake, edge of the lake or river or path. That's where I set up my tripod, and then there is nothing in front of me to worry about. And of course, never mind the fact that if it's a water surface, it also creates beautiful reflection. Locations where there is something in front of you are a little bit easier than like a crowded streets or squares where there's always going to be another person in front, and it will just make it a little bit more difficult. For beginners, it's a little bit easier when there is this kind of foreground in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can imagine how great reflections would look. All right. Next up is our 7th tip. And I know this one from my studies.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with fireworks. Turning off your image stabilization when you have your camera on a tripod. So I know that because it kind of competes. If you leave it on, it's like competing with the fact that you're trying not to move your camera around. So elaborate on that a little bit.
You can't imagine how many people I've seen forgetting this. And even like people who've been photographing for years and years. My friend Hannes, great photographer, selling photography and all of that. We were standing in Florence together, I think, taking picture of the skyline or, the top of the city in the evening. And he keep taking picture after picture and everything is blurry and just losing his mind. And then it kind of came up here that he had his image stabilization on. So exactly as Holly mentioned, the idea is that the stabilization helps when the camera is moving a little bit, right? It's just try to keep it together and it gives you a little bit more sharpness. But what happens when it's perfectly stable? Well, it just gets confused because there is no movement. So actually it starts to make the images blurry. And yeah, I know lots of people who forget that. And I keep repeating it everywhere I can, every subject that is relevant, because I think this is a one which can really make or break your photo shoot. So good point, and definitely one to remember.
And even though I rarely use a tripod, you almost have to talk out loud to yourself when you're setting it up. And I find myself looking at my camera. Okay, image stabilization is off, blah, blah, blah. But then next time I go out to shoot my regular stuff, I'll be like, damn, I didn't turn image stabilization back on. So even though we know these things, you still can be kind of forgetful, which is, it's okay.
Yes.
But that's definitely a good tip. So you just got to remember to turn everything back the way it was for your next shoot when you're not using your tripod. All right, on to our 8th tip. Is using a remote release or your 2-second timer to shoot fireworks.
Yes, I mean, this is a tip probably for any long exposure photography. The moment you go 1 second and above, every slightest movement of the camera will make the difference. And the fireworks is exactly the same. So whenever I'm shooting long exposure, either if I'm using ND filter or naturally in a low light situation, I always use 2-3 second timer. The idea is that you set your camera, set your framing, and then you just kind of press the shutter and then you let go the camera and it will just do that 1, 2, 3 and then take a picture. Now don't rush back to press it again. Just wait until the picture appear at the screen at the back, because sometimes you don't realize how long actually, 3-4 seconds of the shutter is. And with that touch, you will shake the image, so you want to touch the camera, let go, keep an eye on the back screen until the picture is really taken and it appears, and then continue controlling it. Of course, even easier is to use the remote release. Now, there are 2 types. One is with a wire, so you can plug it into the camera. The other one is wireless, and you can actually have it in a pocket. Now, the pocket one is great for this time of the year when it's really cold, because you can keep your hands warm in your pockets and just activate it from your hand. And this way, you completely avoid touching the camera and you avoid any shake. The one with the wire, there is always a danger that you will just, actually pull a little bit the cable and still move the camera. So if I would go for the remote release, I would go for the wireless one, because I've been using it for years and I think it's a great solution to it. If not, then 2-3 second timer is a great option as well.
Mm-hmm. But no matter what, it's an accessory that everybody should have in their camera bag or in their closet. Okay, on to our 9th one. Now, this is something I have never tried, but I know what bulb mode is. So trying the bulb mode for creative timing. And if I'm not mistaken, you use bulb mode for anything that's 30 seconds or more.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Well,
or what is it?
In a way, this will depend on the camera. Some cameras can do up to 60 seconds, and then you will need to use the bulb mode. But ultimately, the difference between bulb mode and the timers or the speed is that with the bulb mode, it basically opens the whatever sensor or opens the shutter the moment you press the button, and it will stay open until you press it again. Or in some cases, you press the button, keep holding it, and as long as you hold it, it keeps taking a picture. And when you release, it will finish taking the picture. So there are 2 types of these bulb modes. Some of them you just press, it goes, and it can go minutes. Some longer exposures are minutes or hours, talking about some stars or night photography, they can take this long. Or the other one is just you press, it keeps going. And when you release, it takes the picture. So yeah, it's another way to capture long exposure, especially when you go for a really long exposure. Now for fireworks, the advantage of this is this. Let's say that you hear noise of the fireworks. So it's the one which will explode at the bottom, go up. It will create the line of light and explode at the end. So what you're going to do, you're going to press it the moment it will explode or start from the bottom. You will watch how it goes all the way up, explode, and then you let go. So basically, you're able to capture the full movement of the firework without any time before or after extra. So you have the perfect shot of that movement of the firework. Now, this is a little bit advanced and it's something to play around, but honestly, there is lots of fireworks throughout the year. This obviously applies to any time of the year. And it can be quiet, how do you say? So, you can really get on with this. Like, some people love photographing fireworks because it's just very addictive, So you can perfect it in this way that you recognize different fireworks and then use the bulb mode. So you press it as soon as the fireworks goes up, you let it go on until they disappear, and then you let go, and you end up with these beautiful light streams and light streaks and explosions, and it can be lots of fun.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We're on our 10th and final tip already at the end. So keep shooting and review later. So you're probably going to say, just keep firing away, but one at a time. And don't concern yourself with, did you get the best shot ever? Just wait till you get home. Otherwise you could miss some great fireworks.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of people overthink it, especially when they just starting. And I think it's one of the, it's a mistake definitely to do that because you have a small screen, you see only a little bit, and almost all the time, the pictures I like at the location, when I look at the back of the camera and I'm thinking, oh, this one is it's a great shot. It's actually going to be another one. It's not going to be that one because it's really difficult to see. Generally, I don't take the back screen for general photography as a proof that it's going to be amazing image. I think it's just to double check. Some people take it as a granted, but no, I think it's just a preview. And for the fireworks photography, it works exactly the same way. So keep taking photos for the whole length of the fireworks. And I mean, they're never really that long, right? It's just a few minutes generally because it costs lots of money. But keep taking photos. Don't worry too much about checking and only reviewing them back once you get on a big screen where you're able to see the sharpness and everything. Now, for the sharpness, yes, you want to take first couple of pictures and check that the images are sharp. That's the only thing we are checking on the location. But after that, just keep taking photos and check them when you get home. Enjoy the moment, keep taking as many as you can. Because also, if you start to keep checking the images as the fireworks goes on, there's a higher chance you're going to miss one of them or very important scene. Because again, it only takes a few minutes. If you're going to spend 10, 15 seconds checking images in between, you will miss something definitely. And
worst case scenario, I would think if you come home and nothing looks great, you could use the blur tool in Luminar Neo and just twist all of the colors around and make some kind of interesting abstract.
Yeah, definitely. I thought you were going to say that you can buy a fireworks overlay from a clever photographer. Or buy a fireworks overlay from clever photographer. If you're struggling, folks, you can definitely get a lovely pack of fireworks, which actually, honestly, just kind of fun out of the fun aside, they are great, especially if you're preparing like a New Year wish or card. Lots of people photograph their house in the dark and then they add the fireworks on the top of it and maybe add a sign, Happy New Year. And I think that's really cool, actually. So it's much cheaper than shooting the fireworks and trying to capture it yourself above your house. So yeah, that can be a lot of fun.
All right. Well, we hope that we gave you guys some great tips or inspiration to get out there and shoot fireworks. And of course, have a very safe New Year's Eve. Watch out for any Looney Tunes out there, and make sure no one steals your tripod. And we look forward to seeing you guys next Friday. Well, we won't see you, but we will be you'll be hearing us next Friday.
Happy New Year, everyone, and see you in 2026.
And that's a wrap. Now, there's only 3 things left to do. Subscribe to this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Visit our website at cleverphotographer.com/LumiCast to see what we have in store next. And stay creative and keep editing your photos no matter what anyone says.